Sunset, Saturday night, December 5th, 2020. Sunset. Somehow we seem to take that for granted now, but I think of something I was reading this week by Chad Bird, who asked the question about Adam and the first sunset he ever saw after sin came into the world. God created everything. It was perfect. It was wonderful. And then there was this breaking in of sin, and the sun went down. Darkness. Probably what seemed for Adam like a very long night of darkness. It means he had to ask a lot of questions. He had to wrestle with a lot of things. He had to probably wonder if God was ever going to bring the sun back up. And because the sun wasn't up, had he somehow been left behind by God? Had God forgotten him? Lots of questions, lots of struggles, lots of wrestlings. It's probably a really long night for Adam. You know, this year has been kind of like that, a very long night in some sense. So it's like the sun had gone down on what was normal and everything else, and then it seems like it's been down. As somebody was telling me earlier this week, I thought those first couple of weeks were going to be great. I'll get some crafts done, get some books read. This will be a couple of weeks, staying at home, no problem. And then they said it's been 9 months now. I hadn't even thought about it. It's been 9 months of more and more isolation and struggles and challenges. 9 months since the sun went down on what seemed like what was normal. What everybody thought was God being with them. Kind of like Adam, reflecting, wondering, had God left us? Has God abandoned us? Has God, walked away? The children of Israel felt this way when, after the exile, they sat there in Assyria and in Babylon, and Isaiah was writing to them, and it talks about how the people in Babylon finally just start making fun of them, saying, hey, so what happened to your God? Where'd he go? What's going on? The Israelites had to ask some hard questions. Questions that would help them find out about themselves, but also questions that would come to bring answers about who God really is and what God had they really been depending on and looking for. Sunset. It's nothing new. For us, we tend to think that, sunset is just like any other day. Now, matter of fact, people have gotten to a place where we enjoy to watch the sunset in the evening. But do we ever stop to think about it? Will it come up tomorrow? And if it doesn't, what does that mean? We're in the middle of winter, and the interesting perfection of God's seasons and timings and things in this time of year, especially for people who live here more than maybe other places. It's a gift that's actually given to us that we don't realize it, but the darkness covers this area about 4 o'clock, 4:30. It feels like it's midnight by the time it gets to be 6. It feels like an eternity when it gets to be 8 o'clock. Everybody wonders why they're so tired and struggling. Kind of like Adam. But one of the more interesting things about the Psalms is they talk all the time about waiting for the Lord. And one of the most asked questions in the Psalms are the words, how long, O Lord? How long? We want to have things work our way. We want everything to be sunny side up all the time. We want everything to be exactly what it's meant to be in our mind. And we miss what God's doing because we never join him in his rotation, in his seasons, in his day and night star-marked, moon-lit, sun-reflected creation that he made to mark time for us. Time that took over when we had the sin and the fall. Time that now seems to be something everybody's fighting against to have enough of or more of, or there never is enough of. And today's younger generations are running headlong, trying to get every experience in they can because you only live once. And all of it misses what God's doing and God does and God has said. As a Christian, Advent is exceptionally important for us. The group who came to Thursday morning study looked at an article talking about the fact that Advent is a speed bump in the middle of the year where we suddenly, in the beginning of this new year, we take a speed bump stop to slow down and say, well, wait a minute. What is Advent about? Advent doesn't come in the middle of the summer, in the middle of the sunrise and the joy, the running around in bikinis and bathing suits, and it comes in the middle of darkness. Advent kind of runs over this early time of the more darkest times of our year and coldest time of the year. Everything about Advent fits perfectly into the time of the year. It fits in here because God's made it so we ask the question that perhaps Adam asked when he saw his first sunrise. Has God left me? Will God come back? And then you throw things like COVID and other things on it, the sheer number of deaths of individuals in the congregation we've had, and struggles, and all the people who have been sick and struggling this year. It just seems like it's almost been compounded to try to ask the question and make us ask the question. But for the people of God, the people of Christ, they worship in Advent. They mark time by the lighting of candles. They come and spend extra time in the dark to look for light. It's one of the reasons we don't normally light the Christmas trees and things, because the darkness is important for us to begin to learn what it means to be people of God. If you're always living in the sunlight, you see, you quickly forget because you get too busy doing your things. But God built a time in for us to notice the darkness. There's a time for all things under heaven, including daylight and nighttime. And the people of God gather together and they light a candle, which then becomes 2, which then becomes 3. And slowly a wheel that reminds us of eternity, surrounded by evergreen, with the colors of the royalty that's coming, and the promises of each candle of each week reminds us that God is still here and still working. And if that applies for the darkness of the seasons, which will then turn to summers with just a few months from now, and continue to roll until the time comes when they don't roll anymore, then even more so, God's presence is here with us in the midst of everything that this year of seeming darkness has brought us. If you've lost someone you love, if you've been struggling in isolation because you've kept yourself very much restricted or had to be restricted, if you're one who's received the virus and who would look at others who kind of guffaw at it and say, there's no kidding with this stuff, it's a miserable thing, as we have some people right now living with it. For the people who've struggled with loss of jobs and loss of incomes, changed jobs, having to move, make adjustments, all of life taken up and thrown up like a fruit salad into the air and coming down as a dark black pudding, it seems. To understand Adam's question at the first sunset, where's God? What happened? Where did he go? Where has he been? Where did he move off to? Why is he not with me anymore? Because he used to walk with me in the garden. Why doesn't he walk with me anymore? And part of the answer for Adam is he has to come back to, and that's the whole scriptural testimony, is it isn't that God's gone anywhere. The question is, Adam, where did you go? You're not where I left you. Something's changed. A darkness has come. Oh Lord, we're hiding because we're afraid of you. We made fig leaves, which are trying to covering us, but we know they'll dry out and fall apart, and then, ooh. Adam, looking at the first sunset. Imagine the feeling when he actually saw the sun rise the next morning. When he saw the first sunrise and he knew God had not left him. God had been there all along, and God had been working in the midst of everything to bring light to him. Imagine the joy, imagine the reveling, imagine the relief in some sense, and yet the darkness still coming back again. But he knew more and more each time to trust God because he saw it, and perhaps grew at some time to realize if the sun didn't come up again, it wouldn't mean that God had left us. It actually means the time has come where the Lord has come forever. And the Christians gather together around a circle of candles and light one, and light two, and light three. I hope you're taking time this Advent season to look out into the dimming light and to see the growing dark and to value its presence with you. Even my cats do. But more importantly, for those of you who might be struggling and wondering where God is, he's right here. He hasn't gone anywhere. The question is, where have you gone? Where have you left him behind? He makes himself so visibly found and easily found. It's week after week in worship, surrounding a font and a table and the word, gathered together by God's people and as God's people to find strength in the darkness, to realize you're not alone. You're not walking this path alone. We find ourselves giving hope because we ourselves have found hope. You can't do church in the dark. It can't be the church alone. It just doesn't work, either scripturally or in life. So Advent comes again, and Christians gather around a wreath, and they light one candle, and then another, and another, and a wheel demarking eternity, surrounded by evergreens to remind us of the promise. And eventually, when the center candle gets lit, we remember we never walk alone. God's peace, blessings, and hope to see you tomorrow.